Okay, so what I'm going to do here is show you a couple things that are like little tricks that I use to make some things happen in that economizer spreadsheet that are just easier to show you as a little video clip than by screenshots. And so this is just like a generic spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet that basically draws the equation of a straight line. And my point here isn't, the mathematics behind the equation of a straight line. It's just to use this as an example. So say for instance, you wanted to, sometimes it's handy to have like a horizontal line on the chart that guides the user's eye from the data point over to the reference on the axis. And so kind of like a crosshairs in a way. So like if we wanted to reference this point right here, which is 12, 12, the second point, if we wanted to draw lines that referenced it to the values on the axis, I would build what I call a line generator, which is really, I just pick 2 points, and I'll show you how I do that. You need a Y line generator, and you need an X line generator. And for each of those lines, you'll need X and Y values. And the trick is, for the Y line generator, the Y value is always whatever the Y value is. So if we're going to use this second point, this number here is going to be equal to that. And the second point on that horizontal line is also going to be equal to that. And then to get the line to go all the way across the chart, I just pick values for X that are off the chart, like plus 100, plus 100, and minus 100. And then for the X line generator, I just do the same thing but for X. So I want to pick up the X value. I think I just pointed to the wrong thing. Just look here. Yeah, I picked the X values up for the Y, so I'm going to move this over. Okay. Now, for the X line generator, I want to pick up the X value for the second point. I want to make the second point on that line the same. And then I want the Y values. Oops. Hit the wrong thing here. I want the Y values to be off the chart. So if I've done that right, if I go to the chart here and I select data, if I add, we'll call it the X value line, and so for the X value line, those are the X values, and the Y values are the values that take it off the chart. And then for the, and you can see probably in the background there I got the line showing up. Let's add the Y value line. And I'll pick for my X values, points off the chart, and the Y values are the Y values associated with that line. Say OK. And so now I have 2 lines that reference that point, carry your eye across the axis. And these actually, just because I've formatted some other stuff today, they actually came up to the way I would have formatted them. I like to make, and these are Davidisms, excuse me, I like to make those lines like a color that sticks out a little bit like red, but a light dash, so your eye's guided by them, but it's more drawn to the data line and the axes. So now if I did that right, if I move this point around, make it 4 and 6. Oh, I need to move this point around. Yeah, the line follows that point. So those are the line generators. Now, sometimes you'd also like to project the actually data line, and this one would be easy to do a bunch of ways because it's a straight line, but if you got a curve that you've done, the easiest way to do that is to use that, you use the trend line to make the curve sit. So let's add a trend line. And of course, we already know this is a straight line, so it comes up as a linear trend line. The trick to get it to project is to use the forecast feature. Like if I say forecast ahead 10 units and backwards 10 units, now I get a line that shoots out across the graph, and you'll notice it actually hits my y-intercept of 16. And I can, just like any other Excel thing, I can, actually that's selected, I guess, so I can pick the formatting thing and I can make it, have the same conventions that I was using for the other lines, a light red dashed line. So now I've added lines that project both my data line and point on the data line. I could add other lines to do that point using the same techniques. The other thing sometimes that you would like to have is a label on your chart that updates as parameters change. So let's add a label to our chart that documents the slope of the line, the y-intercept, and the angle it makes with the axis. And to do that, for reasons you'll see in a minute, you need to actually make a little label generator that combines the information. Like to make this label, we want to have some text and we want to have some values combined into one sentence. So the label generator lets us do that. So I'm going to make a little formula. I'm going to say equals, and then the first label is going to say the slope of the line is equal to whatever the value is here for the slope of the line. So I have some text, so I put that in quotes. The slope of the line is equal to, end of quotes. And now I'm going to add my value, and to do that I use the text function. So I say ampersand, which lets me combine things into one string. I use the text function call. I point to the text I want to add, which is the slope of the line, and then I put in the formatting I want. And these are the same formatting codes you use any place else in Excel, like to format numbers on axes and stuff like that. So I want a two-place number with one decimal place. I need to put that in quotes, and I put parentheses. Say enter. So now I have a little sentence here that says the slope of the line is equal to that number. And if I move this line around, basically you'll notice the slope changed and my message changed. Okay. So now let's make a label for the y-intercept. It's the same trick. Oops. Equals quote. Sorry, equals quote the y-intercept is at x equals space quote, then ampersand, text function call. This is literally the same thing we did for the other one, just point to different cells. There's, right here, comma, and so quote, oops, point to this, comma, there we go, quote, and same sort of formatting, pound, pound, point, pound, and again that has to be in quotes for it to work, parentheses. So now I have that, and now let's add the slope. So equals, or I'm sorry, the angle. The angle with the x-axis is quote ampersand text function call and that number. Oops. I forgot the equal sign to start that off, so that's why that messed up. So I was going to say equals quote text, point to the angle, comma, and again I'm going to use pound, pound, point, pound, quote, parentheses. But now I want the degree symbol, so I need to add some more text. So I'm going to say ampersand, quote, space, and then I'm going to use alternate 248, which gives me the degree signal, quote, enter. So now I've made 3 labels that basically combine a text string or 2 with some data. Now to get them on the graph, all I need to do is I click into the graph here. I want to insert a shape, and I insert a text box. So I'm going to make a text box here, and the size, location, all that stuff's purely arbitrary. But here's the trick: you make that text box, and then you say equals, and you point to the cell that has the contents you want to put on there. So now that text box, if we expand it a little bit, has all the information in that cell. And so I'm going to go ahead and format this the way I want it. So, in fact, I'm actually going to do something a little different. So now let's get our 3 other labels. Control C, just copy it. It's a little faster. Point to this one. Another copy of that in here. Equals. So now I got my 3 labels. So let's say I want them to be all lined up and I want them to be closer together. I could, spend a whole bunch of time dragging stuff until I eyeballed it right to where I wanted it. But say I want them to be, the top and the bottom to be about that far apart. I'd like them to be equally spaced, and I'd like them to be aligned on the left. Well, I put this one at the bottom of where I want things. I put this one at the top of where I want things. And I have this one at the left side I want. So now I'm going to click on all 3. Oops. So I click on the first one, I hold Shift, click the second, click the third. I'm going to go to the Format tab. I'm going to go to Align. And I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to align them left. So now they all line up with that left one. And then to get them distributed equally, I'm going to say distribute vertically, and now they're distributed vertically. And so I may want to go one step, like maybe I'd like them to stick out a little bit and not have that grid behind them. So let's do one other thing. Let's insert another shape, and this time I'm just going to insert a rectangle. And I'm going to make that rectangle whatever color I want. I'm going to pick white. I'm going to have no line around it, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a shadow. Problem is that shape's covering up my other shape, so how am I going to grab them? There's a couple things I could do. One thing I could do would be send this backward, which if you think this is layers, that was the newest thing I put in, so it's on top. And so if I send it backward, oops, I sent it too far back. So I sent it to the back. So it's behind everything. So I'm going to bring it to the front again. If I send it backwards, no, I thought it would maybe just... What I thought that would do would be... I thought it would just send it back one layer, but let's undo that and show you the other trick. Sometimes it does send it one layer. I'm not sure what's going on there, but the other trick is if you go home, you pick find and select. Oh, and that's right, this doesn't work with the in charts. There's a selection pane you can get that lets you pick individual elements, but I just remembered it works in PowerPoint, it works in Word, it doesn't work in charts, so you can't use that trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down a little bit. I'm going to grab the 3 things. I'm going to say bring to the front. So that should have put them on the top layer, but it didn't. That's interesting. So I'm not sure what's going on here. So this is one of those things where I mentioned when I said I was going to start doing videos that cut them off and see what happens. Oh, I bet you I didn't click into the chart before I did this. Oh yeah, so that thing's on my spreadsheet. It's not in my chart. That's why I'm having this problem. Okay, so I'm going to click into the chart. Now I'm going to insert that shape. And I'm going to make it white. I'm going to make it have no line. I'm going to give it a shadow. And now I believe if I say send backward, yeah, 3 times, now I've got. So the subtle difference between what I just did and what I did before was I hadn't clicked into the chart when I picked text box. So this chart's like a separate object, like detached, but just visible in this spreadsheet. And so since I hadn't clicked into the chart, I actually had drawn the text box in the spreadsheet, not on the chart, and it was actually disappearing behind the chart. So anyway, that's why that was happening. So now, we're sort of at the end of the little demo. You've seen, how to make these lines, how to project the line, how to make a label that will update as you change parameters, in your equations, and how to get that information to show up as a variable label on the chart. And again, it's just things I do that if you tried to build a spreadsheet like my economizer spreadsheet, you'd discover that I had done some stuff like that. And so this is how I did it. And it's kind of handy. It took me a while to figure it out the first time, so I thought I'd share it. So that's that.